Hey, what's up guys? Joker here. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. If you didn't, I'm here to report with you guys some good news. The first topic we'll be talking about today are Ryzen CPUs starting to show back up in stock. Actually, I came across the story yesterday, and 24 hours later, they are still readily available on multiple e-tailers at MSRP. So we're getting fired into that. We've also got some leaked performance numbers for the upcoming Intel 11 series CPUs, or at least one of those CPUs, which was leaked to some retailers that were actually selling them ahead of launch, which they shouldn't have been, and they were actually tested by Anandtech, a very reputable online reviewer. And also Watch Dogs Legion's online multiplayer component has been delayed indefinitely for the PC, so let's get fired right into the news. But first, today's video is brought to you by MMORC.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro, which you can get for just $15, as well as Office 2019 Pro and Office 365. And if you act right now, you can get an additional 27% off with my code JOK27 at checkout, and that'll knock the price down on Windows 10 Pro from $15.29 all the way down to $11.16. And of course, they accept a wide variety of payment from PayPal to credit cards to Bitcoin. So be sure to act now and hit up the links down in the description below. We will start off, though, by talking about AMD Ryzen, which ever since the 5000 series CPUs came out, they have had a fair bit of trouble being able to keep these things in stock. Of course, even just those, these are one of the earliest pieces of, sort of big hardware component tech to come out in 2020, and they had issues as well, even back then before scalping really became huge, like it sort of did in the second half of the year. I mean, it was there, but it didn't really seem as bad initially. It didn't really get really bad until we got towards the holidays. But either way, they haven't been able to keep Ryzen 5000 CPUs in stock. And now the 5800X, the 8-core 16-thread CPU, as you can see reported over on Hot Hardware, the supply seems to be stabilizing as retailers now have these in stock at MSRP, and they must have tons of them, because I came across this story yesterday. This was actually posted on Sunday at 10:47 a.m., and it's currently 7 a.m. on Monday, and these CPUs are still in stock. As you can see over on Amazon, these are in stock at $449.99 and being sold directly by Amazon themselves, which is huge, especially if you needed to do a return for any reason, whatever. I'm going to have a link directly to this listing down in the description below, because there seems to be a bunch of other listings for the same CPU, and it's selling for like $500, and it'll be like bundled along with like a screwdriver or an HDMI cable. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they're doing that to dissuade scalpers or something from third-party sellers. I'm not really too sure. But the ones being directly sold by Amazon are selling at MSRP. I'll link to this down below. And they're also selling at MSRP over on Newegg as well. Again, Ryzen 7 5800X. These were the only ones that I was able to find in stock in the last 24 hours or so. So maybe now that we're seeing these, we'll start to see some of the Ryzen 5, Ryzen 9 SKUs starting to show up more readily available as well. We can only hope, right? Fingers crossed this could be a good sign of things to come, at least on the CPU side of things. Hopefully, if you've been waiting to get one of those to build out a system, you'll now be able to do that as they're starting to show up online. And hopefully this, holds on too, and this keeps going here for the upcoming weeks and months and throughout the year. And this isn't just like a one-off thing here. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But links down in the description below if you want to grab them on Amazon or Newegg while they're in stock at the regular MSRP. Crazy stuff. Continuing along, though, with talking about CPUs and what will inevitably be a direct competitor with the Ryzen 7 5800X, the Intel Core i7-11700K last week started to show up on some retailers, like some very local retailers were selling these things before they were really supposed to. The reviews aren't supposed to be going live until the end of the month, I believe, or that's when they're supposed to be being sold to the public, is at the end of March. And some retailers got these in early, and they decided to go ahead and break embargo and start selling them to people that were willing to purchase them. And of course, it was only a matter of time before statistics and pictures and videos and everything started showing up online. And thankfully, a reputable reviewer who's been around forever, pretty as far as I know, is Anandtech, actually got their hands on one of the i7-11700K, which is their 8-core 16-thread. So that's going to compete with the 5800X we just talked about, which is now available in stock. And we could see over here on Guru 3D, they've chosen a few select benchmarks from the Anandtech review, where we can see that the 11700K is actually not looking that impressive. Yeah, actually looking to be quite underwhelming, if I'm being perfectly honest. You can see here Far Cry 5 1440p on low settings. We can actually see the 9900KS is beating it out by 5 frames per second here. That's the 2 gens behind. That was like the only case where that really happened here, but definitely losing to the 5800X, it seems, across the board. The 11700K here does slightly edge out the 10700K. 9900KS is just killing. I guess that's the higher out-of-the-box clock speeds of the KS variant. So if we're really doing an apples to apples, that, you know, 11700K to the 10700K, one generation to the next, 2 frames per second, big deal. Coming down here, we also got Cinebench R20 losing once again to the 5800X, only by about 200 points, which is not a ton of points when it comes to the multi-threaded point. For the single thread, that would be a lot, but for multi-thread, only losing by 200 points to 5800X, so not a ton there. So it does seem like Intel's gaining some ground. It really just seems like it's going to kind of come down to what they're selling these things. I'd imagine we could be living in a world where Intel could become the budget option, and AMD will be the higher and more expensive CPU. That would be interesting to see. But in multi-thread, also beating out the 10700K by quite a bit there. So that's good to see, beating the 10700K and Cinebench R20 by a little bit higher of a percentage than what we saw going on with Far Cry 5. Cinebench R20 single thread, 11700K is at 577, while the 5800X is at 627. So that's a pretty strong beating, actually, for single thread performance, beating it by roughly, was it 50, 60 points, something like that, for the 5800X versus 11700K. So it seems like, you know, ahead of this CPU actually coming out, if you can get a 5800X, which right now you actually can, it's a better buy. It seems to be winning against the 11700K. So this is, you know, reputable reviewer with a retail sample bought off the shelf and tested straight up apples to apples against previous generation Intel, current gen AMD, and current gen AMD is winning against all of them in the test that they ran. So, you know, if you're needing to buy a CPU today and you want to get an 8-core 16-thread CPU for around $400 to $450, 5800X seems to be the best option, best way to go, and you can buy those today. You don't even need to wait until the end of the month, so that would be my recommendation. Yeah, I'll leave links to all the sources, everything down in the description below, obviously, so if you want to go sift through the benchmarks, there are actually close to a dozen more benchmarks here that you could go through if you want to, but just seeing, you know, some of these numbers here definitely seems like a very compelling purchase decision, going more towards the AMD side of things. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Last up, but certainly not least, Watch Dogs Legion, which came out late last year. Got some decent amount of praise and stuff like that, although the PC version of the game was completely broken at launch. I haven't really touched it in quite a few months, so I don't know how much they've fixed, but it had a lot of bad stuttering issues on PC and stuff like that, and it seems like the issues on PC are actually continuing, as this game did not have its online component at launch for PC or on the consoles, current gen or next gen, or now the new current gen of consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. So nobody had the online mode at launch. It's supposed to be launching on March the 9th, tomorrow. But now it looks like the PC version of the game is going to be delayed indefinitely, as they have come across some bugs, and thankfully they did decide to delay the PC version this time around, with it being as broken and as buggy as it was. I'd much rather wait for a more complete finished product than getting a broken one, and hopefully it does. From the sounds of their press release, which I'll read to you here, it doesn't sound like it's maybe going to take that long, like they say indefinitely, but it definitely kind of sounds like this could be something they could fix in a matter of weeks or maybe a month or so, and have the game out on PC. So I wouldn't be out there worrying like you're not going to be able to play this game until next year or something online. It sounds like it's going to be coming a lot sooner than later. Taking a look at the press release from Watch Dogs Legion, we'll highlight the portion here on the PC version here in the first bullet point, I should say, where they said, "We've identified an issue in the PC version that can cause the game to crash for players with certain GPUs. The team is working on fixing the issue as quickly as possible, and in the meantime, we've made the decision to wait to launch the PC version until this is fixed. We will communicate the new launch date as soon as possible. They then go on to say that we've also identified an issue that can cause the game to crash during the tactical op. Therefore, we have made the decision to launch it on Xbox, PlayStation, and Stadia on March 23rd. So even the console version is getting delayed up until March 23rd, so no longer coming out on March the 9th. And the PC version, again, no firm launch, no firm date for the reworked version of that, hence why it is going to be delayed indefinitely. And the main reason they said is because it was crashing with certain GPUs, and of course we didn't get any further details on exactly what types of GPUs they are, if it's a certain very specific type, like a certain model number, or if it's like all NVIDIA GPUs or all AMD GPUs. We just really don't know yet. It could be 30 series, it could be 30 series only when using ray tracing, and they don't want to, you know, put a bad spin on the game since this was an NVIDIA sponsored title, heavy with the whole ray tracing and stuff, which is kind of what I think is going on. I think they're having maybe some issues on NVIDIA side of things, and that's why they're delaying this, because they have that partnership with NVIDIA, and therefore they're going to hold it back a little bit. That's just my wild theory here, because I've seen and heard about things in the industry like this happening in the past, where it's one side specifically or another. So it's just a conspiracy theory, but I've seen like shit like this happen before, and I think that's kind of what's going on here. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Just my thought. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Look forward to hearing from you guys. As always, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and enjoy the rest of my day, and I hope you do as well. And I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Ta-ra.